So I'm Meredith McKenzie, and I'm a registered clinical counselor at Parallel Wellness in Burnaby, British Columbia. And this is
Ashley Greensmyth, and I'm also a registered clinical counselor at Parallel Wellness in Burnaby, BC, and also at Catalyst Kinetics Group in Burnaby.
On this channel, we explore topics that bring clients to our therapy practice every day. You'll find tips and strategies that you can make your own to enhance your everyday life and manage your mental wellness. So subscribe to the channel and hit the bell in the corner so you're notified when we post new videos. We publish every Wednesday. So Ashley and I are both registered clinical counselors at Parallel Wellness. In our practices, we both work with couples. We have run the Gottman 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work workshop together in the past. So we talk a lot about different things going on in our practice and do a little bit of case consultation between one another. And this was something, we're all in this lockdown situation of being in self-quarantine during COVID-19. And how does that impact the couples that we're working with potentially?
Another piece I wanted to touch on with respect to fondness and admiration is not assuming what your partner is feeling. We know that in general, this is a stressful time. People can be in different states of acceptance with the change in the world, in different states of normalcy, we'll say, with their routine already. I think in general, an issue that can come up between partners is assuming we know what our partner is thinking, assuming we know what our partner is feeling, or predicting that. And so I want to emphasize to not assume how your partner is feeling on a day-to-day kind of moment to moment. And that can allow opportunity to have more conversations, to have more points of connection. And I think that really helps with building that compassion and with showing respect for your partner, that you can be open to what's going on for them.
I think that's also a really good point too, like you said, for anybody who's working from home, that there are likely going to be stressors that come along just with the workday and typical work week. Your partner might not typically be privy to, because by the time you get home, you're relieved and you're maybe in a great mood and you're ready for dinner and for reconnection. And they're now going to be seeing different sides of your day-to-day life. That it's really important, again, not to attribute any kind of mood that they're experiencing to something that's happening between the two of you.
Yes. And there's a transition piece that's missing too, right? For folks that are used to working out of the home, you get to commute to and from. And that's an opportunity to decompress, process, to de-stress, to do some car karaoke, whatever. That is going to be missing from your work day if you're working from home or if you're not able to work right now.
Another principle that Dr. Gottman talks about is the turning towards principle. And Ashley, can you explain that to us a little bit more and what that might look like when we're staying at home?
Turning towards is basically encompassed by making bids for a connection with your partner. And I think that can be maybe challenged in some ways by spending a lot of time with one another, because you might be inundated with opportunities to connect. But that's not to cheapen or to devalue the importance of being able to spend time with one another. What turning towards describes essentially is noticing those sliding door moments John Gottman talks about, or those opportunities to connect one another, and engaging. Something that's coming up with my couples is, end of day conversation or kind of checking in throughout the day. These are all opportunities to connect with your partner. There's different options available. There's different kinds of meeting bids for connection. And bids for connection are these opportunities where you get to have a positive interaction with your partner. Turning towards is the option we want to lean to. The other is, of course, turning away and turning against. And this is where we're maybe dismissive or we miss that opportunity to connect. By the way, you can recover from those too by acknowledging to your partner, oh, I'm so sorry, I was occupied with this other activity. Or maybe your partner mentioned something and you have your back to them and you don't turn around to interact. You can pick up that conversation again. This can be a place where a lot of conversation unravels and arguments can start from. Turning towards can buffer against conflict in your relationship.
Something that you and I've talked about before, Ashley, as well, is that in all of these opportunities to connect, throughout our days, there's so much opportunity to connect that sometimes we need that time and space for ourselves. And it's really difficult to be able to communicate that in a way that doesn't feel like rejection for our partner, or it doesn't feel like we're turning against or turning away from our partner. And that's actually a great opportunity to use turning towards instead, and having a conversation in a really gentle way of saying, this is not about you. I love spending time with you. I really hope to connect with you over XYZ later, but I'm needing some time for myself. And so that also communicates important boundaries for what you need in the relationship and to cope with this whole really difficult time. And then also, plan something in the future that you as a couple can look forward to.
A piece I want to add to that is the importance of being able to check in with your partner throughout the day when you have the opportunity to do so. Because we might be used to a dynamic where we only see our partner at the beginning of the day or the end of the day, or those arbitrary times where you are seeing one another based on your regular routine. And so one thing that has come to mind for me is having some kind of language around being able to check in with your partner. In the 5 Love Languages book, Gary Chapman's Chapman talks about this love tank, this idea that we have within each of us a tank, much like a car has a gas tank, and that depending on our level of connection and fondness towards our partner, that tank will be at different levels. John Gottman uses the emotional bank account analogy, which is basically the same thing. And that can be a way to check in with your partner throughout the day to say, hey, where's your love tank at? And maybe you say, oh, it's at 100, or it's at 7 right now, or actually it's kind of at a 3. And then you can make plans around what to do so that the two of you can set time aside to connect later in the day or later in the week. It can be a great opportunity to, again, avoid that assumption of how your partner is feeling, where they're at.
If you're interested in learning more about love languages and Gary Chapman's love languages and what they all are and what yours is and what possibly your partner's is, I've created a video previously on the 5 love languages by Gary Chapman, so you can have a look at that by going up to this card. I'll also provide a link in the description box down below. Another one of the Gottman 7 Principles is about making rituals and making meaning in our relationships, and I think this might also be a great opportunity for all of us to create new rituals. I can say for myself, one of the rituals that I have with my husband is that at the end of the workday, we go for a walk, and we've already talked about how beneficial being outdoors can be, and definitely on a personal note, that's true. But it's also been an opportunity for us to reconnect at the end of our work days and then start the evening as family time rather than having it be about work. So one, it's helping us with our transition from work to relaxation time, but it's also that opportunity for us to connect. Yeah.
An important practice that I think couples can introduce right now too during self-isolation is practicing the stress-reducing conversation exercise. As a more structured exercise, essentially this is an opportunity for you and your partner to connect with one another and to talk about your day. That might look a lot different because you're spending a lot of your day together, which I think introduces the importance of being able to set boundaries around spending time together, spending time apart, so that you are feeling a sense of normalcy and also having your optimum level of togetherness and apartness that you enjoy individually. The stress-reducing conversation, essentially what the rules are is that you listen to your partner, you provide empathy, you take their side, and you don't try to problem solve. What can happen in conversation when we're listening to our partner talk about their day, let's say they're reflecting on some challenges at work or some interactions with friends or colleagues or the kids or whatever that might look like, is we move into problem solving and go, have you tried? And we're not quite paying attention. So what you can do in a stress-reducing conversation is look for the feeling words that your partner is talking about and really try to get a sense of what this experience was like for them. That can help you listen harder, that can help you empathize, and that can help your partner really feel heard and understood. As a more formalized practice, when we talk to our couples clients about practicing a stress-reducing conversation, we literally have each partner spend 15 minutes talking while the other partner listens, and then they switch. So this is something that might be helpful to have a little bit of structure in your day around and to plan ahead and hopefully look forward to as well. Some other things to consider in terms of how to avoid conflict is that as soon as bickering begins, this is an opportunity to take a break. So to use the Gottman language, if anyone's familiar with it, that's when we're beginning to feel flooded, is when that bickering is happening, when we begin to repeat ourselves, when our heart rate begins to rise, and then an argument isn't far from that. Another thing I want to mention is argument prevention in terms of setting boundaries. I think a way that we can prevent arguments during self-isolation with our partner is to have some boundaries and some ground rules in the home. This might look like boundaries around where our workspace is, where our living space is. When you've got kids in the mix, where's the timeout space or the quiet space, so that there is a sense of separation in the purposefulness of different parts around your home.
If you don't already have a set date night with your partner, let this be your opportunity to create one. We are big supporters of having a date night. It can be so much more tricky because you can't go to a restaurant, you can't go to the movies, you can't go to a concert. Anything that you would typically do outside of the home is so much harder because the opportunity just isn't there. So you have to get a bit more creative. If you're planning a date night, the thing that I've heard from people that has been more challenging as well is getting themselves in the mood for a date night. A very strange thing happens when you spend 24/7 at home. Even if you're in work clothes, you're maybe in some comfy pants. It's almost like we, switch into this more like sloth-like version of ourselves. And it's just natural that that happens with yourself because you don't have the same stimulation that you typically get outside of the home or the same activation in your behavior. So we almost have to do whatever we can to recreate this for ourselves, to jolt ourselves into a more romantic and activated way of being.
Exactly. There's no romance in reminding your partner to brush their teeth or shave their beard or shave their legs or do any of those things that you might normally do in your routine. So I think having a date night, having the spirit of going on a date with your partner can be a way to retain some of that, day-to-day normalcy in your relationship during the self-isolation, and can also introduce more fun into your week.
To start, or one thing that would be really important with that is to try to inject touch throughout your day to send that message or that anticipation of what's to come with the date. So if you are running to the kitchen to grab a coffee on your typical work from home day, stopping for a second and hugging your partner or kissing your partner so that you're able to make that connection and remind one another that, hey, like, you're my romantic partner, not just my quarantine roommate.
I think it can be helpful too, and for folks who don't have a date night yet and they're going to be introducing it, it can be helpful to have some ground rules like electronic distraction. I can't emphasize that enough. Make sure your phones are off or out of the room or on silent or what have you, so that this is an opportunity to connect with your partner. Yes, you might be connecting with your partner throughout the day, but the purpose of the date night is to be able to spend time working on your relationship. Because when you're spending all of your time with your partner, you're not working on your relationship. You're talking about financial planning, or you are, doing chores together, or you're doing some other kind of household management, or, parenting emergencies, or whatever might be required. So the date night is specifically spending intentional time on your relationship. So make sure that you can be present for one another.
So if you're looking for a little extra way to have some date experience or to connect with your partner, and maybe you've gotten some ideas from this video and you're thinking, hey, how can I learn more about that? Ashley, I think you have an opportunity that you wanted to share with everybody.
I'm going to be taking the Gottman Seven Principles workshop online so that couples can dive into all of the different 7 principles and talk about things like date night, exploring ways to enhance your connection in your relationship. We're going to talk about other topics that we haven't talked about in this video, like really diving into perpetual problems and how to solve them, talking about solving your solvable problems. I think it would be a really great opportunity for couples to be able to expand their connection beyond the time of COVID as well.
Recognizing again how challenging this time period is for couples, and that it may put additional strains or really highlight the areas that they've already been having some challenges in their relationship in the past, that COVID is going to unearth that. And this is actually a really unique opportunity because the Gottman Seven Principles workshop has never actually been permitted to be offered online. And this is something that the Gottman Institute is offering for just a limited time. So Ashley and I are really excited to be able to offer this to all of our practice members within our Burnaby clinic, but uniquely as well, anybody watching this video, actually, if you were interested in participating in that, if you go down to the description box down below, I'm going to be providing a link to the workshop where you can register. So if you're interested in booking an online session with Ashley, I'm going to provide a link in the description box down below for that. And you can book a session with her online or by telephone to be able to either do some individual work or work as a couple. Hope that you've gathered some really valuable information today for how you can make this time at home with your partner a little bit better, a little bit sweeter, that we can not only flatten this curve of COVID-19, but flatten the curve of the divorce rate, because we can all be spending this time more productively, more intentionally to benefit our relationships. So if you like this video, give it a like, and don't forget to share it with anybody that you think would be interested. Subscribe to the channel and check back here because we're going to be posting more videos on how to support your relationship and all things couples related.
Thanks, Meredith, for inviting me to have this conversation across Canada today. It's been really fun to dive into this topic.
And thanks for coming on, and obviously anytime, you're welcome. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.